Billionaire mocked his ex-wife at her engagement party. He never expected what happened next. I watched it fall in slow motion, tumbling through the air, catching the golden light of the setting sun. It shattered on the stone pathway. Nobody turned to look. Every single person in that garden was staring at the same thing I was staring at. 3 wheelchairs, 3 small children, and they all had my eyes. Are they mine? I heard myself ask. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. Reese turned to face me. My ex-wife, the woman I'd divorced 4 years ago and paid $2 million to disappear from my life. She was holding a little girl with dark curls and brown eyes. Eyes that looked exactly like mine when I was a child. You gave up any claim to them when you threw money at me and walked away, Reese said. Her voice was cold, colder than I'd ever heard it. I didn't know, I said. My hands were shaking. Reese, I swear I didn't know you were pregnant. You didn't want to know, she said. There's a difference. A man stepped between us. Tall, thin, with graying hair at the temples and kind eyes. Theodore Walsh, Teddy, her fiancé, the high school history teacher she was supposed to marry. I think you should leave, Teddy said calmly. You're upsetting the children. I looked past him at the 3 wheelchairs. 2 little boys and a girl. They were maybe 3 years old. 4 at most. They were wearing matching blue outfits. One of the boys was crying. The other looked scared. The little girl in Reese's arms was staring at me with those brown eyes that were mirrors of my own. This is none of your business, I told Teddy. My voice came out harsher than I intended. Actually, Teddy said, his voice still calm, still measured, it's very much my business. I'm the one who's been here for the last 2 years. I'm the one who sits with them during therapy appointments. I'm the one who reads them bedtime stories. I'm the one who holds them when they cry in the middle of the night. I'm the one they call when they have nightmares. Each word hit me like a physical blow. I felt my chest tighten. I couldn't breathe. But that moment, that confrontation in a country club garden on a warm May evening, wasn't where this story began. To understand how I became the man standing in front of 3 children, who shared my DNA but didn't know my name, I need to take you back. Back to the beginning. Back to when I was Declan Hart, 36-year-old billionaire, self-made, tech CEO, master of the universe who thought he had everything figured out. I had no idea I was about to lose everything that didn't matter and find everything that did. 3 weeks earlier, I was sitting in my corner office on the 42nd floor of the Hart Technologies building in downtown Seattle. Floor-to-ceiling windows gave me a view of Puget Sound. On clear days, I could see the Olympic Mountains. My office was decorated in what my interior designer called modern minimalist. Glass desk, leather chair, abstract art on the walls that cost more than most people's cars. I was supposed to be reviewing quarterly projections. Instead, I was staring at an envelope on my desk. Cream-colored cardstock. Expensive, but not too expensive. Simple gold lettering on the front. My name and address written in careful calligraphy. I'd been staring at it for 20 minutes. My assistant Nicole knocked on the door and entered without waiting for permission. She'd been with me for 6 years. She knew I didn't stand on ceremony. The merger documents are ready for your signature, she said, placing a folder on my desk. And you have a call with Tokyo in 15 minutes. Cancel it, I said. She blinked. I never canceled calls with Tokyo. The Japanese market was crucial to our expansion plans. Sir, cancel the call. Reschedule for tomorrow. Nicole looked at the envelope on my desk, then at me. She'd been my assistant when I got divorced. She knew the handwriting on that envelope, even if I hadn't opened it yet. Is that from her? Nicole asked quietly. I didn't answer. I picked up the envelope and turned it over. No return address. But I knew. I'd known the moment it arrived. I opened it. Inside was an invitation. Simple design. Elegant. Nothing like the kind of event I usually attended. No corporate logos. No black-tie dress code. Just a simple request. Reese Colton and Theodore Walsh request the pleasure of your company at their engagement celebration. May 15th. 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Willowbrook Country Club. Reese, my ex-wife, getting engaged to someone else. I should have thrown the invitation away. I should have sent a polite decline. I should have done what any reasonable person would do and moved on with my life. But I didn't. Are you going to go? Nicole asked. I don't know, I said. Why would she even invite me? Maybe she's trying to be mature about it. Civil. We haven't spoken in 4 years. Exactly. I looked at the invitation again. Willowbrook Country Club. I knew the place. Suburban. Modest. The kind of venue that catered to middle-class families celebrating weddings and anniversaries. Nothing like the exclusive clubs I belonged to. The kind where you needed a 7-figure net worth just to be considered for membership. What kind of engagement party happens on a Saturday afternoon? I asked. The normal kind, Nicole said. Not everyone throws parties on yachts at midnight, Mr. Hart. I ignored the gentle mockery in her voice. Nicole was one of the few people who could get away with that. Theodore Walsh, I said. Do we know anything about him? Nicole pulled out her phone, gave me 30 seconds. Her fingers moved across the screen. Theodore Walsh, 46 years old, high school history teacher at Roosevelt High School in North Seattle. Lives in Greenwood, volunteers with special education programs. No social media presence to speak of. A teacher, I said. How noble. You sound bitter. I'm not bitter. I'm just observing. You're bitter. I looked at the invitation again. May 15th. That was 3 weeks away. I'll think about it, I said. Nicole left. I sat alone in my office and thought about Reese. We'd met 7 years ago at a charity gala, one of those black tie events where wealthy people write checks to feel good about themselves. I'd been the guest of honor. 31 years old and already worth $100 million from the sale of my first tech startup. I was riding high, cocky, arrogant, sure of myself in a way that only young men with too much money and too little life experience can be. Reese had been volunteering at the medical booth. She was a pediatric nurse at Seattle Children's Hospital. She wore a simple black dress that probably cost 1/10 of what the other women there were wearing. She had dark hair pulled back in a bun, warm brown eyes, a smile that seemed genuine in a room full of fake ones. We talked for 20 minutes. She didn't seem impressed by my wealth, didn't ask what I did for a living, didn't care that I'd just been featured in Forbes magazine. She told me about her work with sick children, about a little boy who'd just beaten leukemia, about how his smile when he got to go home made everything worth it. I asked for her number. She hesitated, then said yes. We dated for 6 months, fast and intense. I was used to getting what I wanted. I wanted Reese. She was different from the women I usually dated. Real. Grounded. She worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital. She lived in a small apartment in Fremont. She drove a 10-year-old Honda Civic. She didn't care about expensive restaurants or designer clothes. She just wanted time together. Conversation. Connection. I proposed after 6 months. Bought a ring that cost 3 months of my salary. Got down on one knee in a private room at Canlis, the most expensive restaurant in Seattle. She said yes. We got married 3 months later. Small ceremony. Her family and a few of my business associates. Nothing extravagant. That should have been my first clue. I was used to extravagant. Reese wanted simple. The marriage lasted 18 months. 18 months of missed dinners because I was working late. 18 months of canceled plans because of last-minute business trips. 18 months of Reese asking me to be present and me thinking that. My presence in her life, my money, my success should be enough. It wasn't. She asked for a divorce. I was shocked, angry. I couldn't understand what more she wanted. I'd given her a beautiful condo in Belltown, a new car, access to my credit cards. What else was there? I want you, she'd said. Not your money, not your success. You. I told her I was giving her me. This was who I was. A man who built empires. A man who worked 80-hour weeks. A man who was going to change the world. Then change it without me, she'd said. The divorce was quick, clean, no children, no shared assets beyond the condo, which I let her keep. My lawyers drew up a settlement. $2 million. They said it was too generous for such a short marriage. I didn't care. I wanted it done. Reese took the money without a word, signed the papers, moved out of the condo, and disappeared from my life. That was 4 years ago. I hadn't thought about her much since then. I'd been busy building Harte Technologies into a billion-dollar company. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. Work was my focus. Work was always my focus. And now she was getting married to a high school history teacher. I looked at the invitation one more time. Then I did something I couldn't quite explain, even to myself. I RSVP'd yes. May 15th arrived on a perfect spring day. Blue sky. Warm sun, light breeze, the kind of day that made Seattle worth all the gray months that came before it. I dressed carefully. Not a suit. That would be too much. But not jeans either. I settled on dark slacks and a light blue button-down shirt. Expensive, but understated. I wanted to look successful without looking like I was trying too hard. I drove my Aston Martin. Another choice I questioned. I had 5 cars. I could have taken something more modest. But old habits die hard. Willowbrook Country Club was exactly what I expected. Nice, but not extravagant. Well-maintained lawns, white columns, a brick facade that had probably looked the same for 50 years. The parking lot was full of Toyotas and Hondas and the occasional Subaru. My Aston Martin stood out like a peacock among pigeons. I parked in the back corner, suddenly self-conscious. The party was in the garden behind the main building. I could hear music, laughter, the sound of people enjoying themselves. I walked around the building slowly, taking my time, trying to decide if this was a terrible mistake. The garden was set up with simple elegance. White tablecloths on round tables, simple flower arrangements, a string quartet in one corner playing something classical I didn't recognize. Maybe 50 people, families, kids running around, working-class folks in their Sunday best. I felt overdressed, out of place. I almost turned around and left. Then I saw her. Reese. She was standing near the fountain, talking to an older couple. She was wearing a simple blue dress. Her hair was down, falling in soft waves past her shoulders. She looked different, not different, just more herself than she'd been when we were married. Relaxed, happy, glowing in a way I didn't remember. She was laughing at something the older man said. Her whole face lit up. I felt something strange in my chest, something I didn't want to examine too closely. Declan? I turned. Patricia, Reese's mother. She looked older, more tired, but her eyes were still sharp. "Hello, Patricia," I said. "I didn't think you'd actually come," she said. There was no warmth in her voice. I was invited. "Yes," Reese insisted, said it would be the mature thing to do. I told her it was a mistake. "I see you still think highly of me. You made your opinion of my daughter very clear during the divorce proceedings," Patricia said. "Your lawyer called her a gold digger in front of a judge. You sat there and said nothing." The memory came back, uncomfortable, sharp. Martin Brooks, my attorney, had been aggressive, painted Reese as someone who'd married me for money. I'd told myself it was just legal strategy, just what lawyers did. But I'd sat there and let him say those things, never contradicted him, never defended her. "That was my lawyer, not me," I said weakly. "You hired him," Patricia said. "You let him speak for you." Same thing. Before I could respond, someone called Patricia's name. She gave me one more cold look and walked away. I made my way to the bar, ordered champagne. Expensive habit. Even at a modest country club, I defaulted to champagne. I stood near the edge of the garden, watching, observing. I couldn't help but compare this party to the kind of events I usually attended. Charity galas with $1,000-a-plate dinners, corporate events with ice sculptures and live bands, parties on rooftops and yachts. This was so normal, so ordinary, so beneath what I could have given Reese. The thought made me feel superior, which should have been another warning sign, but I was too wrapped up in my own ego to notice. The string quartet stopped playing. Someone tapped a microphone. The feedback screeched. People winced and laughed. "Testing, testing," a man's voice said. "Is this thing on?" More laughter. Good-natured. Warm. I moved closer. The man at the microphone was older. 65, maybe. Gray hair. Kind face. He was wearing a suit that had probably been expensive 20 years ago. Reese's father, Donald. "Thank you all for coming," Donald said. His voice was warm, genuine. "Patty and I are thrilled to celebrate our daughter's engagement to Teddy. We've watched Reese grow into an extraordinary woman, strong, resilient, full of love despite the hard times she's been through." I felt the subtle dig. Hard times, meaning me, meaning our divorce. "We couldn't be happier that she's found someone who sees how special she is," Donald continued. "Someone who shows up every day. Someone who understands that love is a verb, not just a feeling." Definitely a dig. I took a long sip of champagne. "Now," Donald said, Reese has asked to say a few words. Sweetheart. He extended his hand. Reese walked up to the small platform. She took the microphone. She looked nervous. She'd never liked public speaking. Thank you all for being here, Reese said. Her voice was soft, slightly shaky. Teddy and I are so grateful for your love and support. She paused, looked out at the crowd. Her eyes found mine. For a moment, everything stopped. She held my gaze. I couldn't read her expression. Surprise? Fear? Something else? She looked away, continued speaking. Before I introduce you to my fiancé, Reese said, there's something I want to share. Something I should have shared a long time ago, but the timing was never right. The crowd murmured, curious, interested. 4 years ago, my life changed in ways I never expected, Reese said. I went through a divorce. It was painful. I felt lost, but something beautiful came from that difficult time. Something I've kept private because I needed to protect what mattered most. My heart started beating faster. What was she talking about? Reese turned toward the main building. She nodded at someone I couldn't see. I want you all to meet the 3 most important people in my world, Reese said. The garden went silent. 3 figures emerged from the building. At first, I thought they were staff. Then I saw what they were pushing. Wheelchairs. 3 wheelchairs. 3 small children. 2 caregivers were helping, guiding the chairs down a small ramp, onto the lawn, toward the platform where Reese stood. My champagne glass started to slip. I caught it, then changed my mind and let it fall. It shattered on the stone pathway. Nobody noticed. The 3 children came closer. The crowd parted, making way. I could see them clearly now. 2 boys. 1 girl, maybe 3 years old. 4 at most. They were small, fragile-looking in their wheelchairs, but they were smiling, waving at the crowd. Everyone, Reese said, her voice thick with emotion. I want you to meet my children. Jackson, Brooke, and Parker. They're 3.5 years old. They were born premature at 26 weeks. They've faced challenges, cerebral palsy, developmental delays, but they are fighters. They are my whole world. The crowd erupted in warm applause. People rushed forward, surrounding the children, cooing, smiling, celebrating. I stood frozen, 3.5 years old, born premature. I did the math. Fast, frantic, desperate. 4 years since the divorce. Minus 9 months of pregnancy. Minus the time they'd spent in the hospital after being born early. The timeline fit. The timeline fit perfectly. I pushed through the crowd. People gave me annoyed looks. I didn't care. I reached the front just as Reese was lifting the little girl out of her wheelchair. The child had dark brown skin like her mother, but her eyes were light brown, almost hazel, the same color as mine, the same shape. Reese, I said. My voice came out strangled. She turned, saw me. Her expression shuddered immediately, went cold, defensive. Declan, she said, are they mine? I asked. The question burst out of me. Loud, too loud. People nearby turned to stare. We need to talk, Reese said quietly. Not here. Not now. Are they mine? I repeated, louder this time. The little girl in Reese's arms looked at me with those hazel eyes. One of the boys started to cry. The other one looked scared. You need to leave, Reese said. Her voice was ice. Answer the question, I demanded. You have no right to come here and demand anything, Reese said. I have every right if those children are mine. They're not yours, Reese said coldly. You gave up any claim to them when you threw money at me and walked away. I didn't know, I said. My hands were shaking. I didn't know you were pregnant. You didn't want to know, Reese shot back. There's a difference. That's when Teddy appeared, stepping between us, calm, measured, protective. I think you should leave, Teddy said. You're upsetting the children. This is none of your business, I said, anger rising, hot and sharp. Actually, Teddy said, his voice still calm, it's very much my business. I'm the one who's been here for the last 2 years. I'm the one who sits with them during therapy appointments. I'm the one who reads them bedtime stories. I'm the one who holds them when they cry in the middle of the night. I'm the one they call when they have nightmares. Each word was a knife. Precise. Cutting. True. One of the boys, the one with glasses, was staring at me. His lower lip was trembling. The other boy had his face buried in the caregiver's shoulder, sobbing. The little girl in Reese's arms spoke for the first time. "Mommy, why is everyone yelling?" Her voice was so small, so innocent. "It's okay, baby," Reese said softly. She kissed the girl's forehead. "Everything's okay," but it wasn't okay. Nothing was okay. Patricia appeared. Reese's mother. Her face was furious. "You need to leave right now," Patricia said to me. "Before I call security." "I just want the truth," I said. "The truth is you weren't there," Patricia said. Her voice was shaking with rage. "Reese tried to tell you she was pregnant. You blocked her number. She tried to email you. Your assistant sent form letters. She called your lawyer. He threatened her. You want the truth? The truth is you abandoned your children before they were even born." The words hit me like a sledgehammer. I looked at Reese, at the little girl in her arms, at the two boys in their wheelchairs, at the crowd of people staring at me with judgment in their eyes. "Meet me tomorrow," Reese said quietly. 10 o'clock in the morning, Oakview Rehabilitation Center on 15th Avenue. "If you really want the truth, I'll give it to you. But right now, you need to leave." "Reese," I started. "Go," she said. "Please." There was something in her voice. Not anger. Not anymore. Exhaustion. Defeat. Sadness. I turned and walked away. Through the crowd. Through the garden. To the parking lot. I got in my car. Sat there for 5 minutes. 10. 15. Then I drove home. The drive back to my penthouse was a blur. I didn't remember getting on the freeway. Didn't remember the exit. Didn't remember parking in my private garage or taking the elevator to the 50th floor. My penthouse was silent. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Puget Sound. The Olympic Mountains were visible in the distance. Perfect view. $1,000,000 view. The interior decorator had called my space modern minimalist chic. Glass and chrome and leather. Everything expensive. Everything cold. I'd never noticed how cold it was before. I poured myself a scotch. 30-year-old single malt. $200 a glass. It tasted like ash. I sat on my leather couch and pulled out my phone. Opened the browser. Started searching. Premature birth at 26 weeks. The results made my stomach turn. Babies born that early had a survival rate of about 80%. But survival didn't mean no complications. The risks were staggering. Brain bleeds. Breathing problems. Developmental delays. Cerebral palsy. Blindness. Deafness. Long-term disabilities. I searched cerebral palsy. Read about muscle weakness. Mobility issues. Speech problems. The need for lifelong therapy. Wheelchairs. Walkers. Adaptive equipment. I searched NICU costs. The numbers were astronomical. A premature baby could easily rack up $1 million in medical bills. 2 million. More. And Reese had 3 of them. I thought about the $2 million I'd given her in the divorce settlement. I'd thought it was generous. More than fair for 18 months of marriage. My lawyers had told me it was too much. Now I understood. That money hadn't been a windfall. It had been survival. Medical bills. Therapy. Equipment. Care. And it probably hadn't been nearly enough. I kept searching. Reading. Learning. Each article made the weight in my chest heavier. Then I started thinking about the timeline. We'd finalized the divorce in January, 4 years ago. If Reese had found out she was pregnant 2 weeks later, that meant she was probably about 6 weeks along when she tried to contact me. I thought back to that time. January, February. I'd been closing a major deal. $50 million. The biggest of my career at that point. I'd been working 20-hour days, living at the office. My assistant Nicole had mentioned something. Reese calling. Multiple times. "Your ex-wife keeps calling," Nicole had said. "Do you want me to block the number?" "Yes," I'd said. I didn't even think about it. Just yes. Then the emails. I'd had my email set up to automatically filter anything from Reese to a folder I never checked. When Nicole mentioned the emails piling up, I told her to send a form response. All communication regarding the divorce should go through legal counsel. Form letter. Cold. Impersonal. Final. And Reese had tried. She'd tried to tell me. I'd blocked her at every turn. Then she must have called my lawyer, Martin Brooks. Aggressive, ruthless, the kind of attorney who protected wealthy clients from anyone trying to take their money. What had Martin said to her? What had he threatened? I picked up my phone, called Martin. It was almost 10 o'clock at night. He answered anyway. That's what I paid him for. Declan, Martin said. His voice was smooth, professional. What can I do for you? 4 years ago, I said. Right after my divorce from Reese Colton. Did she contact you? Silence. Martin? I'd have to check my records, Martin said carefully. Check them now. I heard typing. Martin humming to himself. Then a pause. Yes, Martin said. She called my office in February. 4 years ago. Said she needed to speak with you about an urgent personal matter. What did you tell her? More silence. Martin, what did you tell her? I told her that any attempts to reopen financial negotiations would be met with legal resistance, Martin said. I told her that if she was claiming pregnancy to extort additional money, we would demand paternity testing and fight any claims in court. My hand tightened around the phone. She told you she was pregnant and you threatened her? I was protecting your interests, Martin said. His voice was still smooth, still professional. You just paid her $2 million. She came back 2 weeks later claiming to be pregnant. It had all the hallmarks of a setup. She was actually pregnant, I said, with triplets, my children. Silence, longer this time. I had no way of knowing that, Martin finally said. You could have asked me, I said. You could have told me she called. You could have let me make the decision. You told me to handle her, Martin said. I handled her. You're fired, I said. Declan, don't be rash. We've worked together for 10 years. You turned away the mother of my children, I said. You threatened her when she tried to tell me I was going to be a father. We're done. I hung up before he could respond. I sat there in the dark, scotch untouched, phone in my hand, thinking about everything I'd missed, everything I'd lost. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my bed staring at the ceiling, watching the city lights reflect off the water, thinking about 3 children I'd never met. 3 children who had my eyes, my DNA, my name maybe, though probably not. 3 children who didn't know I existed. At 5 in the morning, I gave up on sleep, took a shower, made coffee I didn't drink, dressed in jeans and a simple shirt, not my usual tailored suit, something more casual, more human. At 9:30, I drove to Oakview Rehabilitation Center. It was in an older part of Seattle, not run down, but not gentrified either. The building was bright yellow with cheerful murals painted on the exterior walls. Children playing, laughing, running, flying. I parked in the lot, sat in my car for 10 minutes. My hands were sweating. My heart was racing. I felt like I was about to walk into the most important meeting of my life. Because the first was, at exactly 10 o'clock, I walked through the front doors. The lobby was bright and clean, colorful. Children's laughter echoed from somewhere down the hallway. The receptionist looked up and smiled. Can I help you? She asked. I'm here to see Reese Colton, I said. And the children. Oh, the receptionist said. Her smile widened. You must be here for the triplets therapy session. Room 14. Down the hall to the right. Thank you, I said. I walked slowly down the hallway. My legs felt heavy. Each step took effort. The walls were covered with children's artwork, handprints in bright colors, crayon drawings, photos of kids smiling. Room 14 had a large window looking into it. I stopped in the doorway. 3 small mats were spread on the floor. The 3 children were there, the 2 boys and the girl. They were wearing matching blue shirts. Their wheelchairs were parked against the wall. One boy was lying on his stomach. A therapist was gently stretching his legs, moving them slowly, carefully. The boy's face was scrunched in concentration. The girl was sitting with support, propped up by cushions. She was reaching for colorful blocks on a mat in front of her. Her hand was shaking, trembling with effort. Her fingers brushed the block but couldn't quite grasp it. The other boy was in some kind of standing frame, a contraption that held him upright. A therapist was working with his arms, guiding them through motions, and Reese was kneeling beside the little girl, encouraging her. That's it, baby, Reese said softly. Reach for the red one. You can do it. The little girl tried again. Her hand shook. Her face showed frustration. "It's okay," Reese said. "Try again. I know you can." The girl reached. Her fingers closed around the block. She held it up, triumphant. "Yes," Reese cheered. "You did it. I'm so proud of you." The little girl beamed. The smile transformed her whole face, made her glow. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I stood in the doorway watching this scene, this moment of ordinary, extraordinary life. Reese noticed me. She said something quiet to the therapist, kissed the little girl's forehead, then stood and walked to the doorway. "You came," Reese said. "You asked me to," I said. We stepped into the hallway. Reese pulled the door partially closed. She crossed her arms, defensive, tired. She looked so tired. "What do you want to know?" Reese asked. "Everything," I said. Reese leaned against the wall. She closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were filled with something I couldn't quite name. Pain, memory, resignation. "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after the divorce was finalized," Reese said. Her voice was flat, matter of fact. I was shocked. We'd been careful. We'd used protection. But nothing is 100%. She paused, took a breath. "I tried to call you," Reese continued, 15 times in 3 days. You blocked my number after the 5th call. I tried emailing. Your assistant sent me a form letter saying all communication should go through your lawyers. So I called your lawyer." "Martin," I said quietly. Reese nodded. "He laughed when I told him I was pregnant. Said you'd think I was trying to trap you. Said if I wanted more money, I should expect a paternity test and a legal fight. He told me to stop calling, stop emailing, that any further contact would be considered harassment. I felt sick. So I gave up," Reese said. "I figured I'd handle it myself. I had $2 million. I had my nursing job. I had my parents. I'd be okay." She laughed, bitter, hollow. "Then at my 20-week ultrasound, I found out there were 3 babies," Reese said. "Triplets. The doctor called it a high-risk pregnancy. Told me I'd need to stop working. Bed rest, monitoring. I was terrified." "What did you do?" I asked. "I stopped working," Reese said. "Lost my income. My parents helped. They took a second mortgage on their house. My dad picked up extra shifts at the auto shop. My mom cut back her hours to take care of me. The weight in my chest grew heavier. At 26 weeks, I went into labor," Reese said. Her voice cracked. "Emergency C-section. The babies were so small, Declan. So impossibly small. Jackson was 2 pounds, 4 ounces. Brooke was 1 pound, 15 ounces. Parker was 2 pounds even." She was crying now, silent tears running down her face. "They spent 4 months in the NICU," Reese said. 4 months of machines breathing for them. 4 months of alarms going off at 3 in the morning. 4 months of wondering if they'd survive the night. 4 months of feeling helpless. I wanted to reach for her, comfort her, but I had no right. They all had brain bleeds," Reese continued. "Grade 3 intraventricular hemorrhages. That's what caused the cerebral palsy. All 3 of them. Different severities." She wiped her eyes. "Jackson has the mildest case," Reese said. "He might walk with a walker eventually, maybe independently someday. Brooks is moderate. She'll likely need a wheelchair long term, but she has good hand function. Parker's is severe. He'll probably never walk. His hand control is limited, but he's smart. So smart. They all are. The little boy in the standing frame. Parker." I looked through the window at him. He was concentrating so hard, trying to move his arm to touch a toy the therapist held. The effort it took was visible on his small face. "How much did it cost?" I asked. "The NICU, the medical bills." Reese laughed again. That same hollow sound. "Over $3 million, she said. "Insurance covered most of it, but my deductibles and copays were insane. The $2 million you gave me was gone in 6 months. After that, it was charity care, payment plans, medical debt. So much debt. I felt like I'd been punched. And now?" I asked. "Now I work 4 12-hour shifts a week at the hospital," Reese said. "Night shifts because they pay more. My mom watches the kids. During the day, I take them to therapy, 6 appointments a week. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. My car got repossessed last month. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment. The kids share a room. Their beds are medical equipment I got through a charity program. What about Teddy? I asked. Reese's expression softened for the first time. Teddy volunteers with the special education program at Roosevelt High, she said. He met Jackson there. We have a partnership with the school for the kids' preschool program. Teddy started talking to me at pickup. He was kind, patient. He started coming over to read to the kids, help with bedtime. He never asked for anything. He just showed up, every day, for 2 years. The implication was clear. Unlike you, do they ask about me? I asked quietly. Reese hesitated, then nodded. Jackson does, she said. He sees other kids at therapy with their fathers. He asks why he doesn't have a daddy. I tell him his daddy is very busy, very far away. I don't know what else to say. The words cut deeper than any knife. Brooke and Parker are too young to really understand yet, Reese continued. But they will, soon, and I don't know what I'll tell them. Through the window, I watched the little girl. Brooke, she was still working with the blocks, still trying so hard. I want to be involved, I said. I want to help. Reese's expression hardened. Why now? She asked. Because you got embarrassed at a party? Because you realize you have children and it made you look bad? Because they're mine, I said. Biology doesn't make you a father, Reese said. Her voice was sharp, cold. Being there makes you a father. Showing up makes you a father. You have to earn that title, Declan. You don't just get it because you share DNA. Then let me earn it, I said. Please. Reese stared at me for a long moment, studying my face, trying to decide if I was serious, if I meant it. They don't know you, she finally said. They're 3 years old with complex medical needs. They're scared of strangers. You can't just walk in and expect them to accept you. I know, I said. And I won't let you hurt them, Reese continued. Her voice was fierce, protective. If you start this, and then disappear when it gets hard, and it will get hard, Declan. It's hard every single day. I will never forgive you. Do you understand? I understand, I said. Reese looked through the window at her children, our children. The 3 small humans we'd created together. The 3 lives that had been growing and changing and fighting for 4 years while I lived in ignorance. I need to think about it, Reese said. This isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about them. Everything is about them. I'll wait, I said. However long you need. Reese nodded. I need to get back. Their session ends in 15 minutes. She turned to go back into the therapy room. Reese, I said. She paused, looked back. I'm sorry, I said. For all of it. For not listening. For not being there. I can't change the past. But if you give me a chance, I swear I'll do better. Reese didn't respond. She walked back into the room and knelt beside Brooke again. Helped her reach for another block. I stood in the hallway and watched through the window for the full 15 minutes. Watched the therapists work. Watched the children try so hard. Watched Reese encourage and support and love. When the session ended, I left before Reese saw me. Walked back to my car. Sat there for 20 minutes. Then I made 3 phone calls that would change everything. The first call was to Martin Brooks's office. This is Declan Hart, I said when his secretary answered. Put Martin on the phone. Mr. Hart, I'm afraid Mr. Brooks is with a client. I don't care. Put him on now, or I'll come down there and make a scene. A pause. Then Martin's voice. Declan, we should talk about this when you've had time to calm down. 4 years ago, I said. My ex-wife called you. She told you she was pregnant. You told her I'd fight her. You threatened her with legal action. Do you remember? Silence. Martin, do you remember? I was protecting your interests, Martin said. That's my job. You turned away the mother of my children, I said. You threatened a pregnant woman who was trying to do the right thing. I had no way of knowing she was actually pregnant, Martin said. Women lie about pregnancy all the time to extort money. She wasn't lying, I said. She was pregnant with triplets. My children. They're 3.5 years old now. They have cerebral palsy because they were born premature. They need wheelchairs, therapy, around-the-clock care. And their mother did it all alone because you scared her away. Declan, I understand you're upset, but you need to look at this rationally. I've never seen things more rationally in my life, I said. You're fired, effective immediately. I'll have my new attorney contact you about transferring my files. You're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was trusting you, I said. I hung up. The second call was to Jonathan Park, my accountant. Jonathan, I need you to pull some financial information for me, I said. Reese Colton, my ex-wife. I want to know everything. Her debts, her income, her expenses, medical bills especially. Everything related to the children. Is this for legal purposes? Jonathan asked. Are you anticipating a custody battle? No, I said. I'm going to pay off every penny she owes. That could be substantial. I don't care, I said. Do it today. The third call was to Nicole, my assistant. Clear my calendar for the next month, I said. Sir, you have the merger meeting on Tuesday. Postpone it. The board meeting on Thursday. Cancel it. The presentation to investors on Friday. Move it. Mr. Hart, is everything all right? No, I said. But I'm going to fix it. I hung up and drove back to my penthouse. For the next week, I worked harder than I'd ever worked on any business deal. But this time, I wasn't working for money. I was working for redemption. Jonathan called me 3 days later. I have the financial report, Jonathan said. Are you sitting down? Just tell me. Reese owes $487,000 in medical debt, Jonathan said. Credit cards, hospital bills, therapy bills. Her credit score is destroyed. She's 3 months behind on rent. Her car was repossessed. She's borrowing her mother's car to get to work. She makes $60,000 a year as a nurse, but after taxes and the minimum payments on her debt, she has almost nothing left. Pay it, I said. I'm sorry. Pay all of it, I said. Every debt, every bill. Pay it today. That's almost $500,000. I know, I said. Do it. Do you want me to have her sign anything? Some kind of agreement? No, I said. Just pay it. Send the documentation to her apartment with a note. What should the note say? I thought for a moment. It should say, you shouldn't have to choose between your children's care and your survival, I said. That's it? Sign it with my initial, D. That's all. Understood, Jonathan said. 2 days after that, I bought a van. Not just any van. A custom wheelchair-accessible van. Top of the line. Space for 3 wheelchairs. Medical equipment storage. Easy access ramp. Every safety feature available. It cost $85,000. I had it delivered to Reese's apartment. Then I contacted Oakview Rehabilitation Center and spoke with the director. I'd like to set up a fund, I said, for Jackson, Brooke, and Parker Colton to cover their therapy sessions. That's very generous, the director said. For how long? 10 years, I said. All their sessions. Physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, everything they need. The director was quiet for a moment. Mr. Hart, do you understand how much that would cost? Yes, I said. About $250,000. Is that correct? That's correct, the director said slowly. Set it up, I said. I'll wire the funds today. The last thing I did was buy an apartment. Reese lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in a building that had seen better days. The hallways were narrow, no elevator, stairs only, impossible for wheelchairs, but the building had a ground floor unit that had just gone on the market. I bought it. Cash offer, no inspection, closed in a week. Then I hired contractors. Widen the doorways, I said. Install a roll-in shower. Grab bars in the bathroom. Lower the kitchen counters. Non-slip flooring throughout. 3 bedrooms. 1 for each child. Make it perfect. The contractor gave me a quote. $75,000 for the renovations. Do it, I said. When it was done, I had the deed transferred to Reese's name. 3 days after I paid off her debts, my phone rang at 8 in the evening. Reese. I answered on the first ring. What are you doing? Reese asked. Her voice was shaking. What do you mean? The debts, Reese said. The van. The therapy fund. Declan, what are you doing? What I should have done 4 years ago, I said. This is too much, Reese said. I can't accept all this. It's not for you, I said. It's for them. Jackson, Brooke, and Parker deserve a life where their mother isn't drowning in debt. They deserve proper equipment and therapy and a safe place to live. This is the bare minimum. Declan, I'm not asking for anything in return, I said. I'm not asking to see them. I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I'm just trying to make things slightly less impossible for you. Reese was crying. I could hear it in her breathing. The van is perfect, she said. The kids love it. Jackson calls it the spaceship car. I smiled despite the tightness in my chest. Yeah? And the apartment, Reese continued. The contractor showed me the plans. Declan, it's everything I dreamed of for them. Space for their equipment. A bedroom for each of them. I never thought I'd be able to give them that. You deserve it, I said. They deserve it. Silence. Just breathing on the other end. Can I ask you something? Reese finally said. Anything. Would you want to meet them? Properly. My heart stopped. Are you sure? I asked. I've been thinking about what you said, Reese said. About showing up. You're showing up, even when I told you not to. Maybe it's time. I'd like that, I said. More than anything. Tomorrow, Reese said. 2:00. The new apartment. The contractor says it'll be done by then. I'll be there, I said. Declan, Reese said. Her voice was serious. If this is just guilt, if you're doing this to feel better about yourself, tell me now. Don't meet them if you're not serious. I'm serious, I said. I promise. Okay, Reese said. 2:00. She hung up. I stood in my empty penthouse and realized I was terrified. Tomorrow I would meet my children. Tomorrow I would look them in the eyes and introduce myself. Tomorrow I would start trying to be a father. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I was capable of being what they needed. But I was going to try. I didn't sleep that night either. I spent the hours between midnight and dawn doing something I'd never done before. Research on how to talk to 3-year-old children. What do 3-year-olds like? What do they understand? How do you communicate with a child who has cerebral palsy? How do you make them feel safe when you're a complete stranger? I read articles, watched videos, took notes like I was preparing for a board presentation. Except this was more important than any board presentation I'd ever given. At 6 a.m, I gave up on sleep entirely. Showered, dressed in jeans and a soft blue sweater. Nothing formal, nothing intimidating. I wanted to look approachable, warm, like someone a child might want to hug. I had no idea if it was working. At 8:00, I drove to a toy store in Bellevue, the kind of massive place with rows and rows of colorful boxes and displays. I walked in and immediately felt overwhelmed. A sales clerk approached. She was young, maybe 25, with bright pink hair and a name tag that said Jessica. Can I help you find something? She asked. I need gifts for triplets, I said. 3 years old. 2 boys and a girl. They have cerebral palsy. Her expression warmed immediately. Oh, how wonderful that you're thinking about their specific needs. Are you looking for anything particular? I don't know, I admitted. I've never bought toys for children before. I don't know what they like. Jessica smiled. Let me show you some options. Follow me. She led me through the store, pointing out different toys, explaining patiently. I felt like I was learning a new language. These cause and effect toys are great for children with limited mobility, Jessica said, holding up a colorful panel with large buttons. See? They just have to press anywhere, and it lights up and plays music. It gives them a sense of control and accomplishment. I'll take 3, I said. She showed me soft blocks that were easy to grasp, musical mats that played sounds when touched, books with textured pages that engaged multiple senses, adaptive art supplies with thick handles. I bought everything she recommended. By the time I was done, I'd spent $3,000. The checkout clerk raised her eyebrows when she scanned everything. Someone's going to have a very happy birthday, she said. Something like that, I said. I loaded everything into my car, looked at the pile of bags and boxes, wondered if it was too much, too little, just right. I had no frame of reference. At 1:30, I drove to the address Reese had given me. The apartment building looked different. Fresh paint, new landscaping. The ground floor unit had a ramp leading to the entrance. Smooth, professional. I parked and sat in my car for 10 minutes. My hands were shaking. My heart was racing. I felt like I was about to walk into the most important moment of my life. Because the first was, At exactly 2 o'clock, I walked to the door and knocked. Reese opened it immediately. She was wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked nervous. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I said. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. "Come in," Reese finally said. I stepped inside and stopped. The apartment was beautiful, bright, open, wide hallways with smooth floors. The living room was spacious with large windows letting in afternoon sunlight. I could see 3 bedrooms down the hall. Each door was painted a different color: blue, pink, green. And in the middle of the living room, sitting on a soft rug, were 3 children: Jackson, Brooke, and Parker. They looked up when I entered. 3 pairs of eyes, 2 brown like their mother's, 1 pair hazel like mine. They stared at me with curiosity and uncertainty. "Kids," Reese said gently, "do you remember the man from Grandma and Grandpa's party?" The children didn't respond, just stared. "This is Declan," Reese continued. "He's the one who gave us the spaceship car. He wanted to come visit you today." Jackson, the boy with glasses, tilted his head. "Are you the spaceship man?" he asked. His voice was small but clear. I felt my throat tighten. "Yes," I said. "I guess I am." "Thank you for the car," Jackson said solemnly. "It's the best car ever." "You're welcome," I said. Brooke, the little girl, was sitting with support, cushions around her. She was holding a stuffed butterfly. She looked at me but didn't speak. Parker, the other boy, was in his wheelchair. He had a device attached to the arm of the chair, some kind of communication tablet. He pressed a button and a computerized voice said, "Hi." "Hi, Parker," I said. I stood there feeling completely out of my depth. I had no idea what to do next. "Why don't you sit down?" Reese suggested. "The kids are just playing. You can join them if you'd like." I sat down on the floor carefully, not too close. I didn't want to scare them. I reached for one of the bags I'd brought. "I brought some things for you," I said. "If your mom says it's okay." Reese nodded. "Go ahead." I pulled out the first toy, a musical mat. I unrolled it on the floor. It was covered in colorful images, animals, instruments. Each section made a different sound when touched. "This plays music when you touch it," I explained. "Want to try?" Jackson crawled over. His movements were awkward, uncoordinated, but determined. He reached the mat and pressed his hand down. The mat played a piano sound. Jackson's face lit up. "Again," he said. He pressed another section, drums, then another, guitar. Brooke was watching, interested. I moved the mat closer to her. She reached out with a shaking hand and touched it. Violin sounds filled the room. She smiled. That smile, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Parker was too far away in his wheelchair. I looked at Reese. "Can I move him closer?" I asked. Reese hesitated, then nodded. "Let me show you how to unlock the wheels." She demonstrated. I practiced. Then carefully, slowly, I wheeled Parker over to the mat. I positioned him so he could reach it from his chair. Parker looked at the mat, then at his communication device. He pressed a button. "Help," the device said. "You want help?" I asked. Parker nodded. I gently took his hand, guided it to the mat. We pressed down together. Saxophone sounds. Parker's face broke into the biggest smile. "More," his device said. We did it again, and again. Soon all 3 children were pressing the mat, making a cacophony of sounds, laughing, enjoying themselves. I looked at Reese. She was watching from the couch. Her eyes were wet. For the next 2 hours, I played with my children. I helped Jackson stack soft blocks. They were large and easy to grip. We built a tower together. When it fell, Jackson laughed and wanted to build it again. I showed Brooke the textured books. We touched the fuzzy parts, the scratchy parts, the smooth parts. She said the words: fuzzy, scratchy, smooth. Her speech was a little unclear, but I understood. I helped Parker use a painting toy. It had thick brushes attached to handles he could grip. We made colorful marks on paper. Parker used his device to tell me what colors he wanted: red, blue, yellow, green. At 4 o'clock, Reese said it was time for me to go. The children needed their afternoon routine. Snack time, then quiet time. "Can the spaceship man come back?" Jackson asked. Reese looked at me. Would you like that? She asked me. Yes, I said immediately. I'd like that very much. Reese smiled. Okay, how about this weekend? Saturday afternoon? That works, I said. As I was leaving, Brooke called out. Bye-bye, she said. Her voice was soft, sweet. Bye, Brooke, I said. Parker pressed his device. Bye-bye. Bye, Parker, I said. Jackson waved enthusiastically. Bye, spaceship man. Bye, Jackson, I said. I walked to my car, got inside, sat there for 5 minutes before starting the engine. I just spent 2 hours with my children. 2 hours playing on the floor, helping them explore, listening to their laughter. It was the best 2 hours of my life. Over the next month, I visited every Saturday, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, every single week. I never missed. I never canceled. I showed up. The first Saturday we played with toys in the living room. The children were still cautious, still unsure of me, but less scared. The second Saturday, I brought different toys. A bubble machine that made hundreds of bubbles with the press of a button. The children loved it. Jackson tried to catch the bubbles. Brooke watched them float and giggled. Parker used his device to say more, more, more. The third Saturday, Reese asked if I wanted to help with snack time. I stood in the kitchen feeling useless while she showed me how to prepare their food. Jackson could eat most things, but needed his food cut into small pieces. Brooke needed thicker liquids to prevent choking. Parker needed everything pureed and fed to him slowly. It was complicated, precise, nothing like I'd expected. But I learned. I took notes on my phone. I practiced cutting Jackson's food into the right size. I learned how to thicken Brooke's juice. I fed Parker applesauce, 1 small spoonful at a time, patient and slow. The fourth Saturday, something changed. I arrived at 2 o'clock like always, knocked on the door. Reese opened it, but before she could say anything, I heard a voice from inside. Daddy's here. I froze, looked at Reese. Her expression was soft, surprised but not unhappy. Jackson wheeled himself to the door. He was using a manual wheelchair now, moving it himself. He looked up at me. Hi, Daddy, he said. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. Jackson had called me Daddy. Reese put her hand on my shoulder. He's been practicing that all week, she said quietly. He asked if he could call you that. I said yes. I knelt down in front of Jackson's wheelchair. Hi, buddy, I managed to say. My voice was rough. Did you bring toys? Jackson asked. I did, I said. Want to see? Yes, Jackson said. He turned his wheelchair around and headed back into the living room. I followed, blinking back tears. That day, Brooke started calling me Daddy too. Her pronunciation wasn't perfect. It sounded like Dada, but I knew what she meant. Parker used his device. The word Daddy appeared on the screen. Then the computerized voice said it. Daddy. I sat on the floor surrounded by 3 children calling me Daddy, and I realized something. This was what wealth really meant. Not money, not success, not buildings with my name on them. These 3 small humans who trusted me, who were starting to love me, who gave me the title I hadn't earned but was determined to deserve. By the 6th week, I'd learned their routines, their preferences, their personalities. Jackson was curious, always asking questions. He loved dinosaurs and space. He wanted to know how things worked, why the sky was blue, where the moon went during the day. I bought him books about planets and stars. We read them together every Saturday. Brooke was artistic, creative. She loved colors and drawing. I brought her adaptive crayons with thick grips. We colored together. She'd tell me what to draw. A butterfly, a flower, a rainbow. I wasn't good at drawing, but she didn't care. Parker was funny. He had a sense of humor that surprised me. He'd program jokes into his communication device. Silly knock-knock jokes. He'd press the button and watch everyone laugh. Then his whole face would light up with joy. I learned about their medical needs too. Jackson had physical therapy twice a week to work on his walking with a walker. Brooke had occupational therapy to improve her hand strength. Parker had speech therapy to learn to use his communication device more fluently. I asked Reese if I could attend their therapy sessions. She hesitated, then agreed. The following Wednesday, I met them at Oakview Rehabilitation Center. I watched Jackson work with his physical therapist. They practiced taking steps with his walker. 3 steps forward, rest, 3 more steps. It took 20 minutes to cross the room. But when Jackson made it all the way across, he looked at me with the biggest smile. "Did you see, Daddy?" he asked. "I saw, buddy," I said. "I'm so proud of you." Jackson's smile got even bigger. I watched Brooke in occupational therapy. She was learning to use adaptive utensils to feed herself. The spoon had a special grip and a curved handle. It took her 10 minutes to get 1 spoonful of applesauce from the bowl to her mouth, but she did it herself. And when she succeeded, she looked at me. "Look, Dada," she said. "I see, sweetheart," I said. "You did it all by yourself." I watched Parker in speech therapy. The therapist was teaching him to create more complex sentences with his device. Subject, verb, object. Parker practiced. "I want more. I like music. I love Daddy." That last one broke me. The therapist smiled. Reese wiped her eyes. Parker just looked at me with those big brown eyes. "I love you too, Parker," I said. After 2 months of Saturday visits, Reese called me on a Thursday night. "I need to ask you something," she said. "Anything," I said. "Tomorrow night, Ava's running a fever and coughing. I'm supposed to work the night shift at the hospital. My mom usually watches the kids, but she's out of town visiting my aunt. I don't have anyone else." She paused. "Would you be willing to stay with them?" Reese asked. "Just for the night. I know it's a lot to ask." "Yes," I said immediately. "What time do you need me?" "I leave at 6:30, Reese said. "I'll be home by 7:30 in the morning." "I'll be there at 6, I said. "Thank you," Reese said. Her voice was thick with emotion. "This means everything." The next evening I arrived at the apartment at exactly 6 o'clock. I had an overnight bag with a change of clothes. I'd cleared my entire schedule for the next day. Nothing was more important than this. Reese met me at the door. She looked exhausted, worried. "Brooke's fever is 101, Reese said. "I gave her children's Tylenol at 5 o'clock. She can have more at 9 if the fever's still up. The bottle is in the bathroom cabinet." I wrote down the dose. She handed me a piece of paper covered in detailed instructions. Medication times, food preferences, emergency numbers, bedtime routines. I read it carefully, committed it to memory. "Jackson goes to bed at 7:30, Reese continued. "Brooke at 8. Parker at 8:30. They each have specific routines." I wrote it all down. "I've got it," I said. "We'll be fine." Reese looked at me, really looked at me. There was something in her eyes I hadn't seen before. Trust, real trust. "Call me if anything goes wrong," she said. "Anything at all." "I will," I promised. Reese kissed each child goodbye. Then she left for work. I stood in the apartment alone with 3 children who needed me. My heart was pounding. My hands were sweating. But I was determined. Jackson wanted to play with his dinosaurs. We sat on the floor, and he told me elaborate stories about tyrannosaurs and triceratops. I listened to every word, asked questions, made the dinosaur noises he requested. At 7 o'clock, I made dinner. Mac and cheese for Jackson and Brooke. Pureed chicken and vegetables for Parker. I cut Jackson's food into small pieces. I made sure Brooke's milk was thickened properly. I fed Parker slowly, carefully, 1 spoonful at a time. At 7:30, I started Jackson's bedtime routine. Bath first. Reese had installed a special bath seat that supported him safely. I helped him undress, lifted him into the tub, washed his hair, made sure he didn't slip. After the bath, I dried him off, helped him into his pajamas, dinosaur pajamas, lifted him into his bed. His bed was actually a specialized medical bed with rails to keep him safe. Jackson wanted 3 books. I read all 3, used different voices for the characters. Jackson laughed and said again, "Daddy." I read them again. Then we said goodnight. I kissed his forehead, turned on his nightlight shaped like the moon. "Good night, buddy," I said. "I love you." "Love you too, Daddy," Jackson said. His voice was sleepy. I left his door cracked open and went to check on Brooke. Her fever was still up. I took her temperature, 102. Time for more medicine. I measured the dose carefully, gave it to her with a little water. She made a face at the taste. "I know it's yucky," I said, "but it'll help you feel better." Brooke nodded. "Okay, Dada." Bath time for Brooke was similar to Jackson's. Special seat. Careful washing. I was getting better at this. More confident. After the bath, I helped her into her princess pajamas, lifted her into her bed. She wanted to color before sleep, so we colored together for 15 minutes. She made a picture of a butterfly. I made a very bad picture of a flower. Dada, yours looks silly, Brooke said, but she was smiling. I know, I said. You're much better at this than me. At 8 o'clock, I tucked her in, kissed her forehead, turned on her butterfly night light. Good night, sweetheart, I said. I love you. Love you, Dada, Brooke said. Parker's bedtime routine was the most complex. He needed help with everything. Brushing teeth, changing into pajamas, getting into bed. I did it all slowly, carefully, talking to him the whole time. Parker wanted music. I found the playlist on Reese's phone. Soft lullabies. I played it while I sat next to his bed. Parker used his device. Love you, Daddy. I love you too, Parker, I said. I stayed until he fell asleep. Then I went to the living room and collapsed on the couch. I was exhausted, completely drained, and it was only 8:30. How did Reese do this every single day? How did she work 12-hour shifts and then come home to all this? The answer hit me hard. She did it because she had to, because she loved them, because she was their mother, and I hadn't helped for 3.5 years. I checked on each child twice during the night, took Brooke's temperature at 11, still a little high but coming down, gave her more medicine. She barely woke up, just took the medicine and went back to sleep. At 2 in the morning, I heard crying. I rushed to Parker's room. He was awake, scared. His device said, "Bad dream." I sat on the edge of his bed. "It's okay," I said softly. "It was just a dream. You're safe." I stayed with him, rubbed his back gently, sang a lullaby I half remembered from my own childhood. My voice was terrible, but Parker didn't seem to mind. He fell back asleep. I stayed for another 20 minutes just to make sure. At 7:30 in the morning, Reese came home. She looked exhausted from her shift. She found me in the kitchen making breakfast. Jackson was at the table eating dinosaur-shaped pancakes. Brooke was in her wheelchair drinking thickened orange juice. Parker was waiting for me to feed him pureed oatmeal. "How did it go?" Reese asked. Her voice was anxious. "We did great," I said. "Brooke's fever broke around 3 this morning." Jackson slept through the night. Parker had a nightmare at 2, but went back to sleep pretty quickly. Reese stared at me. "You handled the nightmare?" "He was scared," I said. I sat with him until he felt better. Reese's eyes filled with tears. She turned away quickly. "I'll go change out of my scrubs," she said. When she came back, she sat at the table with the kids. I made her a cup of coffee. She took it with a small smile. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For everything. Anytime," I said. "I mean that. Anytime you need help, I'm here." And I meant it. Completely. 3 months after that first meeting, I moved. My penthouse in downtown Seattle had seemed so important. Status symbol. Proof of success. Now it just felt empty and far away from what mattered. I found a house in Greenwood, 3 blocks from Reese's apartment. It was smaller than my penthouse. Only 2 bedrooms. But it had a yard and a garage, and it was close to my children. I moved in over a weekend, hired movers for the furniture, spent my Saturdays setting up the house between afternoon visits with the kids. I used 1 bedroom for myself. The other bedroom I left empty for now. But I had plans. I called contractors, had them install ramps, widen doorways, make the bathroom accessible. I was creating a space where the children could visit, where they could stay overnight someday, if Reese agreed. I bought 3 beds, adjustable beds with safety rails. I bought toys and books and art supplies. I made one corner of the room into a reading nook with soft cushions. Another corner had a low table for coloring. I painted the walls a soft yellow, hung pictures of dinosaurs and butterflies and stars. The first time Reese saw the room, she cried. We were standing in the doorway. She was looking at everything I'd done. "You made them a room," she said. "I wanted them to have a space here," I said. "If that's okay with you." Reese turned to me. "Declan," she said, "you've changed so much. When I invited you to that party, I never imagined this." "I'm trying," I said. "Every day I'm trying to be better." "You're succeeding," Reese said. We stood there for a moment. Something passed between us, something I couldn't quite name. Then Jackson called from the living room. "Daddy, come play dinosaurs." The moment passed. We went back to the living room, but I thought about it for days afterward. 6 months after the engagement party, I realized I'd become a completely different person. I'd cut my work hours by more than half, hired a new CEO to handle day-to-day operations while I focused on strategic decisions. Decisions I could make from home, from coffee shops, from Reese's apartment while the kids napped. My business partners were confused at first. Then they saw the results. I was more focused, more efficient, better at prioritizing. I worked smarter because I had less time to waste. My bank account was still growing, but money had lost its appeal. I didn't care about having the most expensive car or the biggest house or the latest gadgets. I cared about whether Jackson's new walker was working well, whether Brooke's art therapy was helping her hand strength, whether Parker's communication device had the newest software update. I attended every therapy session I could, learned the exercises so I could practice with the kids at home, became friendly with their therapists, asked questions, took notes, applied everything I learned. On Wednesdays, I picked the children up from their preschool program, brought them to my house. We'd play for a few hours. Then I'd make dinner. Simple stuff. Chicken nuggets, pasta, things they liked. On Saturdays, I had them from 10 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon. We went places. The zoo, the aquarium, the children's museum, everywhere with accessible paths and accommodations. I learned to plan ahead, call venues to ask about accessibility, bring extra medications, pack emergency supplies, anticipate needs before they arose. I learned to see the world differently, to notice curbs that were too high, bathrooms that were too small, restaurants that didn't have space for wheelchairs. I became an advocate, spoke to managers, wrote reviews, donated money to accessibility improvements, and slowly, carefully, I became a father. One evening, Reese and I were sitting in her living room. The children were asleep. We'd started having coffee together after I helped with bedtime routines. Just talking, planning, co-parenting. "I need to tell you something," Reese said. "Okay," I said. "I broke up with Teddy," she said. I tried to keep my expression neutral. "When?" 2 months ago, Reese said. 2 months? Why didn't you tell me? "Because I needed to be sure it was the right decision," Reese said. "I needed to process it myself first." "Why did you break up?" I asked. Reese looked down at her coffee. "Because it wasn't fair to him. He's wonderful, kind, patient, everything I thought I needed." She paused. "But I'm not in love with him," she continued. "I thought I could be. I wanted to be. But every time I was with him, I was thinking about you, about me, about whether you'd show up on Saturday," Reese said, "about whether you remembered to bring Jackson's dinosaur book, about whether you learned how to buckle Parker's special harness properly." She looked up at me. Her eyes were vulnerable, open. "You became part of our lives," she said, "part of our family, and I couldn't marry someone else while wondering if maybe, someday, we could be a real family. All 5 of us." My heart was pounding. "Reese," I said. Her name came out as a whisper. "I'm not saying I forgive you for everything," Reese said quickly. "I'm not saying we just get back together like nothing happened, but I'm saying maybe there's a possibility. If you keep showing up, if you prove this isn't temporary." "I will," I said. "I promise." "Don't promise," Reese said. "Just do it." "Okay," I said. "I'll do it." We sat there in the quiet, the possibility hanging between us, fragile but real. Over the next year, I did exactly what Reese asked. I showed up, every day, in every way that mattered. When Jackson had hip surgery, I was in the waiting room for all 6 hours, pacing, praying, terrified. When he came out of surgery, crying in pain, I stayed overnight in his hospital room, slept in a chair next to his bed, held his hand when he woke up scared. When Brooke had a seizure for the first time, I met Reese at the emergency room at 2 in the morning, sat with her in the waiting room while the doctors ran tests, held her while she cried from fear and exhaustion. When Parker got pneumonia and had to be admitted to the PICU, I canceled a week of meetings, slept in the hospital, brought Reese food and coffee, sat next to Parker's bed reading to him even when he was sedated and couldn't hear. I learned that fatherhood wasn't about the good moments. It was about showing up for the hard moments, the scary moments, the exhausting moments. It was about 3 a.m. medication doses, emergency room visits, insurance battles, equipment failures, therapy setbacks. It was about celebrating the smallest victories. 3 steps with a walker, 1 word spoken clearly, a spoonful of food eaten independently. It was about unconditional love for 3 small humans who challenged me and changed me and made me better than I'd ever been. One Saturday afternoon, we were at my house. Jackson was practicing with his walker in the hallway. He'd been working up to this for months. 10 independent steps, from his wheelchair to my arms. Reese was filming. I was at the end of the hallway, arms open. "You can do it, buddy," I said. "Come to Daddy." Jackson gripped his walker, took a deep breath, stepped. 1 step, 2 steps, 3. "Keep going," I encouraged. "You're doing great." 4 steps, 5, 6. "Almost there, Jackson. You've got this." 7, 8, 9. "One more, buddy. Just 1 more." 10. Jackson took the 10th step and fell into my arms. I caught him, held him. We were both crying. "I did it," Jackson said. "Daddy, I did it." "You did it," I said. "I'm so proud of you." Reese was sobbing behind the camera. The video shook from her tears. We watched that video 100 times, sent it to therapists and grandparents and friends. Each time I watched, I felt the same overwhelming pride. My son had walked 10 steps. It might not sound like much to some people, but to us, it was everything. A few months later, Brooke spoke her first clear sentence. We were coloring together at my house. She was concentrating hard on staying inside the lines. Suddenly, she looked up at me and said, "I love you, Daddy." Perfect pronunciation, clear words, full sentence. I stopped coloring, stared at her. "Did you just say what I think you said?" "I love you, Daddy," Brooke repeated. Smiling, I scooped her up and hugged her. "I love you too, sweetheart. So much." Reese came running from the kitchen. "What happened?" "She said I love you," I told Reese. A full sentence, clear as day. Reese burst into tears, happy tears. We'd been working on this for months in speech therapy, and Brooke had chosen this moment, this perfect moment. Parker's breakthrough came during speech therapy. The therapist had been teaching him to program jokes into his device. Knock-knock jokes, simple puns. One day, Parker programmed an entire joke by himself. He pressed play. "Why did the chicken cross the playground?" The device asked. We all waited. To get to the other slide, the device answered. It wasn't a great joke, but Parker had done it all by himself. Subject, verb, object, setup, punchline. We all laughed, not because the joke was funny, but because Parker had told it. His eyes sparkled with pride and joy. These moments, these small, beautiful moments, this was what I'd missed for the first 3.5 years of their lives. I couldn't get that time back, but I could be present for every moment from here forward. 18 months after that engagement party that changed everything, Reese and I had settled into a comfortable co-parenting relationship. We talked every day, made decisions together, supported each other. We'd become friends, real friends, partners in raising our children. But there was something else too, something unspoken. Looks that lasted a little too long, touches that lingered, moments when we'd both feel it and look away. One evening, I was at Reese's apartment helping with dinner. The kids were playing in the living room, supervised but occupied. Reese was washing dishes. I was drying, domestic, easy, natural. "Can I ask you something?" I said. "Sure," Reese said. "Do you ever think about us?" I asked. "Not as co-parents, as us." Reese stopped washing, kept her hands in the soapy water. "All the time," she said quietly. "Me too," I said. She turned to look at me. Her hands were dripping. She didn't seem to notice. "I don't know if I can trust it," she said. "This feeling. What if it's just because we're parenting together? What if it's not real?" "It feels real to me," I said. "What if you leave again?" Reese asked. Her voice broke. "What if something gets hard and you run?" "I won't," I said. "I'm not that person anymore." "How do I know that?" "Because I've had 1,000 chances to run," I said. "When Jackson had surgery, when Brooke had seizures, When Parker was in the PICU, I stayed. Every time. I'll always stay. Reese was crying now, silent tears running down her face. I stepped closer, gently took her wet hands in mine. I love you, I said. Not because you're the mother of my children, not because we have history, but because of who you are, your strength, your patience, the way you love them, the way you've let me learn to love them too. I love you, Reese. She was shaking. I love you too, she whispered. I never stopped. Even when I hated you, I still loved you. I pulled her close, held her. She buried her face in my chest and cried, years of exhaustion and fear and loneliness pouring out. When she finally stopped crying, she looked up at me. I'm scared, she said. Me too, I admitted. But maybe we can be scared together. She smiled through her tears. Yeah, maybe we can. I kissed her. Soft, gentle. She kissed me back. It felt like coming home. From the living room, we heard Jackson's voice. Are Mommy and Daddy kissing? Brooke giggled. Ew. Parker's device said, gross. We broke apart laughing. We should probably talk to them, Reese said. Probably, I agreed. We walked into the living room. 3 children stared at us with knowing smiles. Kids, Reese said, Daddy and I need to talk to you about something. Are you getting married? Jackson asked bluntly. Reese and I looked at each other. We're thinking about it, I said. How would you feel about that? Would you live with us? Jackson asked. Yes, I said. If your mom agrees. All 3 children started cheering. Parker's device said, yes, 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 over and over. I guess they approve, Reese said. I guess they do, I agreed. 6 months later, on a perfect autumn day, I asked Reese to marry me. Not in a fancy restaurant. Not with an expensive ring. Not in front of a crowd. I asked her in our living room, the house we'd bought together. Big enough for all 5 of us, fully accessible, full of toys and laughter and love. The children were asleep in their rooms. Each had their own space, their own personality reflected in the decorations. Reese and I were sitting on the couch, just talking about our day, about the kids, about nothing and everything. I pulled out a small box. Simple, not flashy. Reese, I said, 5 years ago, I married you for the wrong reasons. I was building an empire, and I thought you fit into my life plan. I was wrong. I was young and arrogant and stupid. I lost you. I lost years with our children. I can't get that time back. I opened the box. Inside was a simple gold band with 3 small stones, not diamonds. Birthstones, for Jackson, Brooke, and Parker. But the last 2 years, you've given me a gift I don't deserve, I continued. You let me be their father. You let me learn what love really means. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you. The real way. The way that's about partnership and showing up and choosing each other every day. I got down on one knee. Reese Colton, will you marry me? Will you let me be your husband the way I should have been the first time? Will you build a life with me? The real kind. The messy kind. The kind that's full of therapy appointments and dinosaur facts and Parker's jokes and Brooke's art and all of it? Reese was crying. Happy tears this time. Yes, she said. Yes, yes, yes. I slid the ring onto her finger. She looked at it, saw the 3 birthstones. For them, I explained. It's perfect, she whispered. We kissed, soft and sweet and full of promise. From down the hall, we heard Jackson's voice. I told you they were getting married. You were supposed to be asleep, Reese called out. We were listening, Brooke admitted. Parker's device chimed. Family, happy, love. We laughed, all 5 of us. A family, messy and loud and imperfect and perfect. 1 year later, we got married. At the same country club where Reese had planned to marry Teddy. In the same garden where I'd first seen my children. Full circle. But everything was different now. I was different. The garden was set up simply. White chairs, simple flowers, string quartet playing softly, maybe 75 people. Reese's family, my mother and sister who'd flown in from Boston, friends from the hospital, therapists who'd worked with the kids, real people who'd been part of our journey. 3 small wheelchairs sat at the front of the aisle. Jackson in his blue suit, Brooke in her pink dress, Parker in his green tie. They were our wedding party. All three of them. I stood at the altar, nervous, excited, grateful. The music changed. Everyone stood. Reese appeared at the back of the garden. She was wearing a simple white dress, her hair down in soft waves, her father walking beside her. She was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. They walked down the aisle slowly. When they reached the front, Donald kissed his daughter's cheek, then shook my hand. "Take care of her," he said quietly. "I will," I promised. "Always." The officiant was a friend of Reese's, a nurse from the hospital. She smiled at both of us. "We are gathered here today," she began, "to celebrate a love story that defied the odds. Declan and Reese's journey hasn't been easy. It's been full of mistakes and redemption, pain and healing, loss and rediscovery. But through it all, they've learned what love really means. Not perfection, but showing up every single day." I looked at Reese. She was crying already. Before they exchanged vows, the officiant continued, "Declan is asked to make promises to 3 very special people." I turned to face the children. "Jackson, Brooke, Parker," I said. My voice was shaking. "Before I make promises to your mom, I want to make promises to you." I knelt down in front of their wheelchairs. "I promise to show up," I said, "every single day, for every therapy session, every doctor's appointment, every good day and hard day. I promise to listen when you need me, to celebrate every victory no matter how small. I promise to love you exactly as you are. You 3 taught me what it means to be a father, what it means to be a man, and I'm grateful every single day that I'm yours." Jackson wheeled forward and hugged me. Brooke reached out, and I kissed her hand. Parker pressed his device. "Love you, Daddy." "I love you too," I whispered. The guests were crying. Reese was sobbing. I stood and took her hands. "Now," the officiant said, "Declan and Reese will exchange their vows." I cleared my throat, tried to keep my voice steady. "Reese," I said, "I can't erase the past. I can't give back the years I missed. But I can promise you the future. I promise to be the partner you deserve, the father our children need, the man you believed I could become. You saved me. You and Jackson and Brooke and Parker. You gave me something more valuable than all the money in the world. You gave me a family, and I will spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of that gift." Reese's turn. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. "Declan," she began. Her voice cracked. "You're not the man I divorced. You're not even the man I fell in love with the first time. You're better. You're the man I always hoped you'd be. The man our children need. The man I need. I love you, all of you. The parts that are broken and the parts that have healed. I choose you. Today and every day." We were both crying now. "The rings," the officiant said. Jackson had them, attached to a pillow on his wheelchair. He wheeled forward proudly. We exchanged rings, simple gold bands that matched. "By the power vested in me," the officiant said, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Declan, you may kiss your bride." I kissed Reese, soft and sweet. The crowd erupted in applause. We turned to face our family and friends, together, united. And then Reese did something I didn't expect. She picked up Brooke from her wheelchair. I picked up Parker from his. Jackson wheeled himself. We walked down the aisle together. All 5 of us. A family. At the reception, I danced with Brooke in my arms, her little hands around my neck, swaying to the music. She was giggling. "Daddy, you're silly," she said. "I know, sweetheart," I said, "but I'm your silly daddy." I pushed Jackson around the dance floor in his wheelchair, spinning, making him laugh. His joy was infectious. I held Parker while Reese danced with us. All 3 children in our arms, moving to the music, creating memories. Later, as the sun was setting, Jackson wheeled up to me. "Daddy, can we have cake now?" he asked. I laughed. "Yes, buddy, all the cake you want. Because that's what fathers do. They show up. They say yes. They love without conditions." 4 years ago, I'd stood in this same garden, arrogant, empty, thinking I was better than everyone around me. I'd mocked my ex-wife for her modest party, for her simple life, for choosing a high school teacher over a billionaire. I'd had no idea I was about to meet 3 people who would destroy my ego and rebuild my soul. 3 children in wheelchairs who looked at me with eyes like mirrors. I never expected what happened next. I never expected to fall in love with being a father, to find joy in therapy sessions and bedtime routines, to measure wealth in giggles and I love yous. I never expected to discover that the biggest mistake of my life would lead me exactly where I was supposed to be. As I stood there watching my children eat cake, their faces covered in frosting, I realized something. I'd spent 36 years trying to build an empire, trying to be important, trying to matter, but I'd had it all wrong. This was what mattered. Jackson's laugh, Brooke's art, Parker's jokes, Reese's hand in mine. This was wealth, real wealth, the kind you can't buy or earn or achieve, the kind you receive when you finally become worthy of it. Reese came up beside me, slipped her hand into mine. "Happy?" she asked. I looked at our children, at our family, at the life we'd built from the ashes of my mistakes. "Happier than I've ever been," I said. "Happier than I ever thought possible." Parker wheeled over, his device lit up. "Best day ever," it said. "Best day ever," I agreed. And I meant it, completely, because sometimes the greatest transformations come from the moments that humble us. The surprises we never expect become the blessings we can't imagine living without. I'd mocked my ex-wife at her engagement party. I never expected that the 3 surprises she revealed would lead me to the greatest wealth I'd ever known. Not money, not success, not buildings with my name on them, but love, family, purpose, and 3 children who taught me that being a father isn't about biology or money or status. It's about showing up every single day, no matter what. If this story touched your heart, I need you to do something for me right now. Drop a comment and tell me what moment hit you the hardest. Was it when Declan first heard his children call him Daddy? When he stayed up all night caring for them? When he knelt in front of them at the wedding? I want to know which part of this journey resonated with your soul. And if you believe in second chances, if you believe that people can change, if you believe that showing up is what makes you a parent, a partner, a person worth knowing, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to Love and Twilights with Dr. Phillips, because I have more stories that will make you laugh and cry and remember what really matters in this life. Stories about redemption and love and the choices that define us. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. Share it with someone who's struggling to forgive. Share it with someone who needs hope. Because Declan's story isn't just about a billionaire who found his children. It's about all of us. About the moments we get it wrong and the grace to get it right. About the humility to admit we were lost and the courage to find our way home. The best time to show up was yesterday. The second best time is now. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to this story. Thank you for believing that love can heal what we thought was broken forever. Until next time, remember this. You are not defined by your worst mistake. You are defined by what you do after you make it. Show up, choose love, build your family, and never, ever take for granted the people who give you a second chance. Because sometimes the greatest wealth in the world is 3 children calling you daddy and meaning it.